I couldn't even hold my grandson's hand without wincing in pain. The simplest things, opening a jar, turning a doorknob, even just getting out of bed in the morning, became these monumental challenges that consumed my entire day. My doctor just kept increasing my medication, but the side effects were almost worse than the arthritis itself. I felt trapped in a body that was betraying me more each day. That's what Martha, a 72-year-old grandmother from Ohio, told me when I interviewed her for our series on managing chronic pain. Her story isn't unique. Millions of seniors wake up every morning dreading the first movements of the day, when stiff, inflamed joints remind them of all the things they can no longer do comfortably. But Martha's story doesn't end there. And what she discovered might change how you think about arthritis pain management altogether. When we talk about arthritis, we're not just talking about a little discomfort. For people like Martha, we're talking about a condition that completely reshapes daily life. Over 54 million Americans live with some form of arthritis, making it the leading cause of disability in the United States. And those aren't just numbers, they're people who can't pick up there. Grandchildren who have given up hobbies they love, who have watched their world gradually shrink. I used to be so active, Martha explained. I gardened every day. I volunteered at the community center. I was the grandmother who got down on the floor to play with the kids. Then suddenly, I became the grandmother watching from the chair in the corner. Do you know what that feels like? To become a spectator in your own life. The conventional medical approach often starts with over-the-counter pain relievers like acetaminophen or NSAIDs, such as ibuprofen. When those stop working, many doctors prescribe stronger medications, including opioids in severe cases. But these approaches come with significant drawbacks. My doctor had me on so many medications I needed a pill organizer the size of a small suitcase, Martha laughed, though there was little humor in her eyes. My stomach was constantly upset. I felt foggy all the time, and honestly, the pain was still there. Just muffled a bit around the edges. For Martha, the turning point came during a particularly difficult week when her pain management regimen simply wasn't working anymore. It was my granddaughter's ballet recital. I'd been looking forward to it for months. But that morning, my hands were so swollen I couldn't even button my blouse. I sat on the edge of my bed and I just broke down crying. That moment of desperation led Martha to do something she hadn't considered before. She reached out to her neighbor, Alina, a retired nutritionist who had mentioned alternative approaches to inflammatory conditions in the past. I was skeptical, I'll admit it, Martha said. I'm from a generation that trusts doctors implicitly. If it doesn't come in a prescription bottle, we tend to think it's just snake oil. But I was desperate enough to listen. What Alina shared with Martha wasn't revolutionary or exotic. It wasn't some miracle cure being hidden by pharmaceutical companies, as some internet articles might claim. It was something far more reasonable, a comprehensive, evidence-based approach to reducing inflammation through dietary changes, specific supplements with research behind them, and gentle movement practices. Before we dive into what Martha actually did, it's important to understand what's happening in the body with arthritis. While there are over 100 types of arthritis, the most common forms, osteoarthritis and rheumatoid arthritis, both involve inflammation. In osteoarthritis, the cartilage that cushions joints breaks down over time, leading to pain, swelling, and decreased range of motion. In rheumatoid arthritis, the body's immune system mistakenly attacks joint tissues, causing inflammation that can eventually destroy bone and cartilage. What many people don't realize is that while we can't completely reverse these conditions, we can significantly impact the inflammatory processes that make them so painful. Alina explained inflammation to me in a way no doctor ever had, Martha said. She compared it to a fire in my joints. And while medications can douse the flames temporarily, they weren't addressing what was fueling the fire in the first place. This understanding that certain foods, lifestyle factors, and even stress can act as fuel for inflammatory fires became the foundation of Martha's new approach. The first component of Martha's new regimen was a series of dietary changes specifically targeted at reducing inflammation. "I've never been one for fancy diets," Martha admitted. "I grew up in the Midwest on meat and potatoes." But Alina helped me understand that I didn't need to completely overhaul my eating, just make strategic adjustments. These adjustments focused on several key principles. First, Martha began incorporating more omega-3 fatty acids, which have been shown in multiple studies to reduce inflammatory markers in the body. She added fatty fish like salmon twice a week and began taking a high-quality fish oil supplement that had been third-party tested for purity. I was worried fish would be expensive, but frozen salmon fillets were actually quite reasonable. And I found I loved the taste once I learned how to prepare it properly, she said. Second, she dramatically increased her consumption of colorful fruits and vegetables, particularly those rich in antioxidants that help combat oxidative stress, a key component of inflammation. "Berries became my new dessert," Martha explained. "And I started adding spinach to practically everything. My grandkids teased me about turning into Popeye." Third, she reduced her intake of foods known to promote inflammation. Processed foods, refined sugars, and certain omega-6 fatty acids found in many vegetable oils. "The hardest part was giving up my afternoon cookies," Martha admitted. "But I found that, after a few weeks, I actually stopped craving sweets as much. And when I did have something sugary, I could feel the difference in my joints the next day. That made it easier to say no." Finally, she experimented with eliminating potential trigger foods that can cause inflammatory responses in some people, particularly dairy and gluten. "I did a simple elimination diet for 3 weeks, then carefully reintroduced foods to see how my body responded. I discovered that for me personally, dairy definitely made my symptoms worse, but I could handle whole grains just fine." It's worth noting that Martha's dietary changes weren't based on fads or anecdotes. Each component has significant research supporting its role in managing inflammation. For instance, a 2017 study published in Frontiers in Nutrition found that the Mediterranean diet pattern, which incorporates many of these same principles, was associated with reduced inflammatory markers in patients with rheumatoid arthritis. The second component of Martha's approach involved carefully selected supplements with scientific evidence supporting their use for arthritis symptoms. "I was very cautious about supplements," Martha emphasized. "There are so many products making wild claims about curing arthritis. Alina helped me focus only on options with actual research behind them. After consulting with both Alina and her primary care physician, Martha began taking turmeric with black pepper extract, which has been shown in multiple clinical trials to reduce joint pain and stiffness. A 2016 systematic review published in the Journal of Medicinal Food analyzed 8 randomized controlled trials and found that turmeric extracts were as effective as ibuprofen for knee osteoarthritis pain. "I take 500 mg of a standardized curcumin extract twice daily," Martha explained. "And I made sure to find a product that included black pepper extract, which increases absorption dramatically. Glucosamine and chondroitin sulfate, which some studies suggest may help maintain cartilage health and reduce pain, particularly in moderate to severe osteoarthritis of the knee. The research on these is mixed, Martha acknowledged. But after 3 months, I noticed a difference in my knee pain specifically, so I've continued taking them. Vitamin D, which plays a crucial role in immune function and has been linked to arthritis symptoms when deficient. A blood test had revealed Martha's vitamin D levels were well below optimal range. My doctor actually thanked Alina for suggesting the vitamin D test, Martha said. He admitted they don't check it routinely, but probably should, especially in older patients with inflammatory conditions. Martha was careful to emphasize that supplements were just one part of her approach, not a magic solution on their own. I think that's where people go wrong, she reflected. They hear about a supplement that might help, take it in isolation, then get disappointed when it doesn't fix everything. These supplements supported the changes I was making with diet and movement. They weren't doing all the work themselves. The third, and perhaps most transformative component of Martha's approach, was her new relationship with physical activity. When you're in pain, your instinct is to stop moving. That's just human nature, Martha explained. But Alina helped me understand that the right kind of movement actually decreases arthritis pain over time, even if it's temporarily uncomfortable. Martha began with water exercises at her local YMCA, where the buoyancy of the water reduced pressure on her joints while still allowing her to build strength and flexibility. Those first few water aerobics classes, I felt so out of place, she laughed. But the instructor was wonderfully accommodating, and I discovered a whole community of people managing various health challenges through gentle movement. From there, she gradually incorporated Tai Chi, a practice with substantial evidence supporting its benefits for arthritis patients. A 2013 systematic review published in Arthritis Care and Research analyzed 7 randomized controlled trials and found that Tai Chi reduced pain and stiffness while improving physical function in patients with osteoarthritis. Tai Chi changed my relationship with my body, Martha said thoughtfully. It's so gentle, but you feel the effects deeply. It improved my balance too, which was an unexpected benefit. Perhaps most importantly, Martha began practicing joint-specific exercises recommended by a physical therapist, designed to maintain range of motion and build supporting muscle around her most affected joints. Just 10 minutes of targeted exercises each morning made a remarkable difference in how my hands functioned throughout the day, she noted. It's like oiling a rusty hinge. Everything works better with a little proper movement. As Martha progressed in her journey, she became increasingly aware of how stress and emotional factors influenced her pain levels, something research increasingly confirms. On particularly stressful days, my pain was noticeably worse, she observed. I started paying attention to this pattern and realized I needed to address not just the physical aspects of inflammation, but the emotional components too. This led her to incorporate simple stress reduction practices into her daily routine. A 5-minute morning meditation focused on breathing and setting positive intentions for the day. I use a free app on my phone, Martha said. Nothing fancy. Just 5 minutes of guided breathing each morning while I sit on the edge of my bed. It centers me before the day begins. Conscious relaxation of tense muscles throughout the day, particularly around her affected joints. I set a gentle alarm on my phone that reminds me every couple of hours to check in with my body. Am I clenching my jaw? Hunching my shoulders? Just that awareness helps me release tension I didn't even realize I was holding. Prioritizing sleep quality, which research shows is crucial for managing inflammation. I created a proper bedtime routine. No screens for an hour before bed, a cup of chamomile tea, and a cool, dark bedroom. My sleep tracker shows I'm getting almost an hour more deep sleep each night now. The connection between stress and inflammation is well established scientifically. Chronic stress triggers the release of pro-inflammatory cytokines and can exacerbate autoimmune responses. By addressing this component, Martha was tackling inflammation from yet another angle. The changes didn't happen overnight. Martha is quick to emphasize that her journey wasn't about finding a miracle cure, but rather about creating sustainable lifestyle changes that collectively made a significant difference. The first month, I honestly questioned whether it was worth the effort, she admitted. The dietary changes were challenging, and some days my pain was still quite bad. But Alina encouraged me to be patient and to look for small improvements rather than expecting a complete transformation. By the 3-month mark, Martha began noticing consistent changes. Her morning stiffness, while still present, lasted for minutes rather than hours. She could open jars with special gripping tools instead of having to wait for someone to help. Her pain medications, which she continued under her doctor's supervision, seemed more effective at lower doses. 6 months in. That's when I had what I call my garden moment, Martha said, her voice softening with emotion. I was able to get down on my kneeling pad and plant spring bulbs. Something so simple, but something I thought I'd never do again. I sat there with my hands in the dirt and just cried with gratitude. After a full year of these combined approaches, Martha's results were remarkable by any standard. Her pain levels, which she tracked daily on a scale of 1-10, had decreased from an average of 7.5 to a manageable 3. Her use of prescription pain medication had been reduced by approximately 70%, with her doctor's full support and supervision. Her inflammatory markers, measured through blood tests, showed significant improvement. Most importantly, her functional capacity, her ability to perform daily activities and engage in meaningful experiences, had expanded dramatically. Last summer, I took my grandchildren camping, Martha said proudly. I couldn't have imagined doing that a year earlier. Was I still careful with my body? Absolutely. Did I have some pain? Yes. But it no longer controlled my life. I controlled it. Martha's experience aligns with a growing body of research supporting integrative approaches to arthritis management. While her story is individual, the components of her approach have substantial evidence behind them. Anti-inflammatory diets have been studied extensively, with multiple trials showing benefits for arthritis symptoms. A 2017 study in arthritis care and research found that each fruit serving consumed was associated with a 10% lower risk of arthritis progression. The supplements Martha chose have varying levels of evidence, with turmeric curcumin having particularly strong support. A 2019 meta-analysis in the Journal of Medicinal Food concluded that curcumin supplementation significantly improved symptoms and inflammatory markers in patients with arthritis. Exercise interventions for arthritis are now considered standard of care, with organizations like the Arthritis Foundation and American College of Rheumatology strongly endorsing appropriate physical activity. A 2018 Cochrane review analyzing 44 trials found high-quality evidence that exercise improves pain, function, and quality of life in people with hip and knee osteoarthritis. Mind-body approaches have also gained scientific legitimacy. A 2020 study in JAMA Internal Medicine found that an 8-week mindfulness program led to significant improvements in pain and functional limitation in adults with chronic low back pain, and similar benefits have been observed in arthritis patients. What I appreciate about Martha's approach, Alina noted when I spoke with her, is that she didn't reject conventional medicine in favor of alternative treatments. She integrated evidence-based complementary approaches alongside her medical care, with her doctor's knowledge. That's the most responsible and effective way to manage a chronic condition like arthritis. Martha's journey from debilitating arthritis pain to renewed mobility illustrates something important. When it comes to managing chronic inflammatory conditions, we don't have to choose between conventional medicine and natural approaches. The most effective strategy often combines the best of both worlds. I'm not saying I've found some miracle cure for arthritis, Martha emphasized as we concluded our interview. I still have arthritis. Some days are still difficult, but I've found a way to live with it that gives me back control and joy in my life. And that's worth everything. For those inspired by Martha's story, it's important to remember that her approach was methodical and personalized. She worked with knowledgeable advisors, kept her doctor informed, and paid careful attention to how her body responded to each change. If you're struggling with arthritis pain, consider discussing these evidence-based approaches with your healthcare provider. Anti-inflammatory eating pattern rich in colorful produce, omega-3 fatty acids, and whole foods targeted supplements with research supporting their use for arthritis symptoms, appropriate physical activity, designed for your specific condition and limitations stress reduction techniques that acknowledge the mind-body connection. Start small, Martha advises. Don't try to change everything at once. Pick one area, maybe diet or gentle movement, and build from there. Take notes on what helps and what doesn't. Become a student of your own body. For those interested in learning more about evidence-based approaches to managing arthritis naturally, we've compiled resources from organizations like the Arthritis Foundation, the National Center for Complementary and Integrative Health, and peer-reviewed research on our website. Remember that while Martha's experience is inspiring, your journey will be unique to you. The key is to approach arthritis management with both hope and evidence, believing improvement is possible while making choices based on sound science rather than hype. The most important thing I've learned, Martha said as we wrapped up our conversation, is that we have more power over how we feel than we realize. Not total power, I won't pretend that, but more than I ever imagined. And that knowledge itself is incredibly freeing. Thank you for joining us for this episode of Evidence-Based Alternatives. If you found value in Martha's story, please consider subscribing to our channel for more evidence-based approaches to health challenges. And let us know in the comments, what strategies have helped you manage inflammatory conditions in your life? Until next time, this is Dr. Sarah Mitchell, wishing you well on your journey to better health, one evidence-based step at a time.